Hey Glow Girl, welcome to Front Porch Friday. We're in week 3 of my series, If I'd Known Then. 5 things I learned the hard way so you won't have to. And this week we're going to talk about how to avoid an ulcer, okay? How to deal really with worry. It's going to be a lesson on worry here today on Front Porch Friday. I want you to look at this face. This face is the face of a former stress ball, okay? Several years ago especially, I remember a situation that I would wake up in the mornings and it was just right there in front of me. I would go to bed at night and it would just be right here. It just began to make me feel tense in my shoulders. I began to get knots in my neck. My stomach was just in a knot, and I would even be robbed of sleep because it was a situation that was very near and dear to my heart, and there was really nothing I could do about it. And so what I was doing about it was I was just worrying. But here's the truth. If you had asked me back then, Laurie, are you worried about that? I would have said, oh no, I trust God. No, I'm just praying about it. But honestly, even my prayers were just worries to God, okay? They were faithless prayers, just sort of venting the situation to God, but really and truly not expressed with very much faith, if any faith at all. And every morning I would just wake up and start at the routine again. It was just a continual thing that I carried around with me, this worry, this concern. And finally, one day, mercifully, God said, this cycle's got to come to an end. And this is what he did. I remember this. I was in my prayer time one morning, and I was worrying to God about this situation. And this is what he spoke to my heart. He said, Laurie, stop it. Stop it. And then he said, you're not me. You're not God. Now give that thing to me. Give that situation to me. And that's when I realized, listen, I had worried myself almost sick about the situation, calling it concern or whatever. And God called it something else. He called it sin. Listen, Jesus said in Luke chapter 12, in that wonderful passage where he tells them about worry, his disciples, he says this, don't worry about your life. And then he goes down in Luke chapter 12, verse 25, can your worries even add a single second, a moment to your life? And he says, of course they can. If they can't accomplish a simple thing like that, then what's the use of worrying over bigger things? And then in Luke 12:28, he says, why do you have so little faith? Girls, worry is faithlessness, and faithlessness is sin. God taught me that day the way to deal with worry, to avoid having an ulcer, is this. Number one, I've got to learn to call it. Call it what it is. Worry is sin. Worry is sin. And then secondly, what God taught me to do with sin was what I already knew, is I have to confess it. Okay? I have to confess it as sin. 1 John 1:9, he says, if we confess our sins to him, when he shows us sin in our lives, and that day he was calling me into account, if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So I confessed it right then before him. And then we have to learn to cast it. 1 Peter 5:7, a wonderful verse, cast all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. See, I was trying to carry that load of worry by myself. I can't do that. I've got to cast those worries upon him because he cares about me and he's in control and he can do something about it. Girls, how are you dealing with worry? What has God taught you about how to handle worry? I'd love to hear your comments. They've been fabulous the past few weeks on this series. Fill out my teaching today and tell me how the Lord has taught you to deal with worry. Girl, I can tell you this, if you're a stress ball today, you first got to call it what it is. It's sin. You've got to confess it to him as sin, and then you've got to cast it on him. Don't worry, girl. Cast your cares upon him. Don't be a stress ball. Don't let it eat your lunch. It's been such a joy to sit here on the porch with you. Thanks so much for joining me for Front Porch Friday. I'll see you next week, and I'll look forward to reading your comments this week on the blog. I love you, girl. Bye-bye.